These were young women, these were girls, no different than our daughters, wives, mothers when they were children, trafficked. Uh, this is terrible. This is something egregious. And if he was not involved, if he's not guilty, then the president should scream for her to be in maximum security prison. But I'm not going to hold my breath until that happens because this is just really egregious. Obviously, the files and everything need to be released, but most importantly, we need to heed the words of a former Department of Corrections head who pointed out the obvious that moving this woman to a minimum security prison makes her a huge suicide and assassination risk. It will be so much easier for somebody to target her there. There's just fences with no barbed wires. It's basically like an open dormitory. Doesn't have any of the security of the prison that she was in. So that could be a big impetus for this whole move. And of course, this woman who is a convicted perjurer and a convicted child sex trafficker is now telling us, oh, nothing happened and so wasn't involved. Well, she has no credibility. She does not need, nor does she deserve a platform, nor should she have one. If anything, immediately she should be returned to a regular prison where she deserves to rot and die slowly from natural causes and suffer in a very harsh environment, which those places are. The place that she got moved to in Texas apparently is as much of a Club Med vacation slash jail as you can get. Like probably a lot of people who are working and the working poor in America, probably like 60 million Americans, if they were offered to live there with the freedoms and the luxuries that they would have there, they'd be like, sure, I'll trade this for my current environment and struggling with the next paycheck to be off the street. Yeah, I'll be in this place. Like, it's that nice. It's not a cold, dark, damp hell like some criminals like murderers and rapists and child sex traffickers like Jizzlaine Maxwell deserve to be in for the rest of her life. She was convicted of this. She is a convicted child sex trafficker. So it's not normal for a woman like that to ever be moved to minimum security. This is the most egregious thing that's happened politically in this nation. I know this is normal in other countries, but this is why the founders of this nation, obviously it's a native land, but when it got colonialized, the founders were coming from a place where they had a king who was evil and corrupt. And like Lord Acton says, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's a very true statement, and it definitely applies here. And this is what we rebelled against. Having a king, having an emperor, having a leader who was just unjust. And this goes beyond taxation. This gets to the point that he's like, I mean, how could you even equate this to our founding father? How could you go back in a time machine and explain this to our founding fathers? Our leader is accused of and by women like Dufresne, like the blessed, wonderful women who are girls who are trafficked, who are victims of these disgusting, disgusting people. They already said that these people were in cahoots with each other. She already named, so it's time for anybody who knew this person to be interviewed, to document all this, to release all the information, not to pick it apart and release what parts you think we can digest. We've all read 100-page books. There's 110 pages, release 110 pages. Don't release the ones that are, some sort of cleaned up, digested version of it. This is all becoming so political in a way that we've never experienced in this nation in my entire life. Ever since I was a tiny kid, ever since I moved to this country at age 4 or 5 or something, a pretty good sense of politics. Just growing up, getting the feeling of it, just like I would if I was growing up in Russia, growing up in Iran, growing up in Israel, growing up in Italy. I would kind of feel how much freedom and how much truth we were getting from our leaders. And I think the greatest thing that we've had as Americans is this sense of accountability and truth. And we haven't felt up until now like we have a ruler or a king or a dictator or a Putin who can just really do anything and command us to do anything. And, and this is just the biggest sign of that ever. That we can't get the truth on this matter. We're creating a platform for this woman who's Jizzlaine Maxwell, convicted child sex offender, to say, oh, nobody did anything wrong. Well, guess what? They did. You've already been convicted of that. So that's like somebody who's been convicted in murder in a court of law. And if guys, I know 95% of the people who are watching this and listening to this have not spent hundreds and hundreds of days in court and don't necessarily understand the law that well, although it's a great thing to brag about these days. It is so incredibly hard to get a conviction for what she got convicted for. She is so incredibly guilty. So to have her say for any reason to try to exonerate anyone and contemporaneously say, oh, and nobody did anything wrong, it's like, no, you did do something wrong. You were convicted of it. That's why you're in jail, because you're a child sex trafficker. That was the charge, amongst others, perjury. So she's a liar too. Why are we putting up with this? Why are we enabling this? Why are we not screaming for her to be thrown back in maximum security prison? I mean, just like Jeffrey Epstein, tragically, like, she holds the secrets to this whole conspiracy ring. I mean, we shouldn't let her say something to let somebody get off and then put herself in a position where she's all of a sudden living a comfortable life in this minimum security prison, which is, like I said, it's pretty much akin to a cheap hotel or like a dormitory. Far different than where she was at, conveniently, and just happens to be at the same time that she gets interviewed and starts saying that these powerful people who have the means to put her in minimum security didn't do anything and weren't part of this. Oh, and by the way, nothing bad happened. So we're supposed to believe that? You're going to rewrite history now? We're not idiots. I mean, we're stupid. I voted for this guy. I'm an idiot. I feel stupid for having done that. I'll admit it. But we got bamboozled. We got hoodwinked. We got conned. We fell for it. So absolutely no reason why the charade should go on, especially because this was the big platform under which we all kind of rallied behind this guy. Just that, like, he's going to drain the swamp, because we all know that there's evil people up there. Well, guess who the most evil one was? Good friends with this guy, doing horrible things with him, and probably, totally controlled by him in terms of having been blackmailed. And hey, the only way to really take care of that is, why don't we kill him and make some deals with his co-conspirator, who was also convicted, and have her make a little advertisement. Like, how? How is that justice? How is that justice for the victims? That's an insult to the victims. That's an insult to the young girls, the women who suffered at the hands of these monsters. Who did the most unspeakable things, which we do not allow in culture and society, which, thank God, we punish. And like I said, I'm not into capital punishment. I'm not into corporal punishment. They have that in a lot of countries. Capital punishment meaning they kill you for certain crimes. Corporal punishment meaning, like Singapore, you get the cane. You get beaten. You get like 8 lashes with the cane. That thing is going to leave welts in your butt like for years. It's not like a yardstick that the nun hits you with. We're talking a solid rattan cane, which is like 1.5 inches thick, probably weighs 3 or 4 pounds, and they're going to swing that stick with penetration until it hits your flesh, and you're not going to be able to walk or sit for months. So I don't believe in capital or corporal punishment. But I don't know. I would honestly, like Jizzlaine Maxwell and anybody involved with this, it's tempting to go down that route, because what they did was so egregious, was so horrible, was such a violation to family values, to the love and respect and dignity that we have. I mean, it goes, like I said, try going in a time machine and describing this to our founding fathers. It's egregious. So I won't speak more about the matter. Everything is out there already. We know what happened. We just need to demand that she gets put in a prison where she's safe and can't be killed and can't commit suicide and can't escape, and deserves to suffer much more harshly than at some minimum security prison for the crimes she's been convicted of. And, at this point, we've been bamboozled. We've been hoodwinked. That we've allowed this myth to be perpetuated. It's really just so insulting. We need to prosecute the people who have been involved. We need to get full transparency with regards to everything that happened. We deserve that as a nation, as a people. God bless.